In a world obsessed with control and predictability, why is creativity the real strategic advantage? Or does AI change that equation? Today, we'll be talking with Dr. Oliver Schlake about those two questions and a lot more. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Madelyn Blair, and this is Unlocked, a show all about unlocking the resilient leader in you. What if the very systems we rely on to succeed are the same systems quietly limiting our ability to create? In organizations, we say we value creativity. We talk about innovation, and we ask for new ideas, and yet, so often, those ideas struggle to surface. Or worse, they're dismissed before they even have a chance to take shape. Why does that happen? Why, in the very places where creativity should be thriving, where complex problems demand fresh thinking, does it seem to disappear? And what does it actually take for individuals and teams to become truly creative, not just occasionally, but consistently and robustly? These questions matter more than ever because we're living in a time where the pace of change is accelerating, where uncertainty is the norm and rather than the exception, and where increasingly artificial intelligence can generate ideas faster than we can. Where does that lead us? If ideas are becoming easier to produce, does it make human creativity less important? Or does it raise the bar for what creativity really means? Is creativity something you're born with, or is it something that can be developed? And what role does curiosity play in all of this? Today, my guest is someone who has spent decades helping leaders, teams, and organizations grapple with exactly these questions. Dr. Oliver Schlake is a globally recognized strategist, facilitator, and award-winning professor who works with organizations around the world to help them think differently, adapt more effectively, and navigate uncertainty with confidence. He challenges people not just to think about creativity, but to experience it. So today, we're going to explore what creativity really looks like in practice, what gets in its way, and how we might begin to reclaim it in our work, in our organizations, and perhaps even in the next chapter of our lives. Oliver Schlake, welcome to Unlocked.
Good morning, Madelyn. Hello.
Good morning. I have been so looking forward to this conversation. Well, when you were introduced to me originally, you were introduced as someone who began their career in product development. But when I read your bio, I didn't see that. And I concluded that you must have taken a broader perspective and you now teach others. How did you make that shift?
Yeah, so technically my work has been what we would call early stages of product development. And so that's a very German way of tackling innovation. So my degree is a PhD in mechanical engineering. And so technically I'm the German engineer. But in Germany, creativity was always a bit challenging to pursue because Germans have a different kind of creativity. And, I'm not talking everyone personally, but in general, we'd like to take ideas that do exist and improve them, kind of an adaptive approach to creativity. And my goal was in life to get this further out into the more experiential type of creativity, breaking ideas, breaking rules. And so over time, I saw it fits well into the early product development stage, but there's more that we can do to get ideas that are more, new to the world. We call them historically creative, not just psychologically creative, which are ideas that are new to yourself, but historically creative means they are new to the world. And typically, the German engineering has been more of an adaptive approach to that. So, with a chance for me to come over to the United States, I found fertile grounds for that and now kind of combining both worlds, because I don't think one of the other should dominate. It's just if you do one in one direction too much, you're missing out on the other part. And so that's what I'm doing here, over the last 25 years as a professor, teaching people how to become more creative.
And I think it's just marvelous that you can blend working with corporations with working with students, because I find students have such a wonderful minds that keeps you young just to do that.
Well, it depends. I mean, I always tell this in class. The first thing is, just because you're young doesn't mean you're creative, right? That's one of those things where people say, "Oh, bring some young people in so we have more creative ideas." It is not really the youngness that is what makes the creative part. I'll give you an example. Karl Lagerfeld, who died a few years ago, very famous fashion designer, worked for Chanel for many years. He comes from the same hometown, almost from the same hometown, from Hamburg in Germany. And so he made his way out to Paris. And he was a creative force until his late 80s. And I always wondered, well, how come? You're old, you're not supposed to be creative, you just take you off into the meadow, get your final resting days there. But Karl Lagerfeld had some unique combination. Number one, he had, of course, over the years, developed an encyclopedic knowledge on anything fashion. I mean, people joked about it. He had such a library in his where he lived in Paris, that the Louvre knocked on his door to get books for an exhibition. And that tells you something. Now, that was one part, and that's assumed that older people, of course, gain some experience and have this vast array of knowledge. Now, what Karl Lagerfeld had that most people at his age did not have, he stayed young in his approach to ideas. He had this uncompromising way of taking every challenge as a fresh one, right? I think, I don't know if it's a quote from him, but I read this. The goal in life is to stay young long enough, right? And he managed that. He had this important mindset that he was willing to break rules, that he was willing to change things. He had an unbridled curiosity about everything. And if you can put these things together, and a few other ingredients as well, but if you put these two things together at first, that makes a much more creative mind. So young people, I've seen many of them who obviously have this kind of rule-breaking, revolutionary thinking mindset, but they often lack the other component. That means, do they have broad enough knowledge that they can plug together into that system of revolutionary thinking? And that's when we work on creativity. I always encourage them to not be just a focal point on your major, but read across a large, broad area, right? Develop a hobby, because we cannot getting better than anything else in the world having a hobby. That's where our most skill set lies in. So the more hobbies someone has, the more I know from the get-go, you probably have a good starting point in creativity. The mindset can be much easier taught, and I can share ideas how to do this. But the key is, if you don't have the broad knowledge, you need to build this up over time, right? And this is obviously the challenge today.
This is fascinating, because I work in resilience. And one of the qualities of resilience is that I say it's deciding that you're going to move on when you're hit. Mm-hmm. But when you decide, you have to have options. Well, if you don't have that breadth of options in front of you, you think there's only one thing you can do, or when in fact there are many things. Yeah.
Well, and we've been taught to have just one option. If you go back into our education system, we get rewarded for the single answer, right? So the teacher gives us an exercise, we have the right answer, and okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
And that at that early age, it already starts to shape our relationship to creativity, because the teacher rarely asks, well, how else could we solve this problem other than, what the textbook said? So, and if you're lucky in life, and I happen to be lucky with especially with my math teachers in school, they awarded us points for the wrong answer coming through a different path, almost getting there, right? And when you have those kind of teachers, so I demand in many of my classes that, okay, that's plan A, where's plan B and plan C, right? Both for the answer, but also then, what's your plan B in life? The program I work in, my subtitle is Prototype Your Life, right? And prototyping your life means every semester you have to come up with a new version of yourself, of who you are. And then you have to test it, right? You have a semester time, test it out, who you are, how this relates to your friends, how your environments react to you. And if you don't do that, then you have the same version of you that went into college that compared to when you get out of this. And I think you missed a major part of college to have this freedom, especially away from home for the first time for most of the students, where you're outside that influence and can reinvent yourself. But if you don't do that, if you don't reinvent, then you stick with the old version A that you came in with, and there's no version B or C of yours when you're done.
Not only that, this is a time in their lives when they can make mistakes.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not going to impact them terribly.
Why? I don't even call it a mistake. It's just experiments, right?
Experiments.
Mistakes is when you commit to something you don't follow through. That's a mistake. Or failure. Or if I give you a charge and I don't give you the tools and I don't think that you have the qualities to do that, then that's a mistake on my end, on the leadership side. Anything in between is just an experiment that that is interesting. And I used to be very much interested in chemistry, and especially the exploding type. And so every time there was a chemistry experiment that blew up in my face and then hopefully didn't injure too much, hey, there's a revelation. That's cool. Let's do this again. Try this. No, that's what we, in teaching, that's what we need to do these days. We need to remove the obstacles, and you need to secure the environment that is a safe place to do this, and also that we take out everything that would kill the creativity in the process, because that's another reason why a lot of people are not creative. They just, just afraid to move on and look at the environment. Nobody likes it. Everybody is against my ideas. There's no time, no money, etc. So the accusers abound of not being creative.
Well, speaking of accusers, you talk about the anti-cyclical nature of creativity in a corporation.
Yeah.
Talk about that a bit.
Well, if things are well in if things are good in a corporation, first of all, the corporation is designed to give an investor predictability. That's the thing. We want this to be predictable. So because as an investor, I want to invest a certain amount of money that I have a predictable outcome. We don't even like to be surprised in the positive with investments, because then we can go back to the CEO and say, hey, CEO, you kind of probably knew it would be a killer year. You should have told us. We would have given more money and we would have invested more. So when you look CNBC in the morning, the only prediction at the end of the quarter that's a good one is when the prediction comes in right on top. I mean, smack dab in what was predicted, right? And so the corporation wants things to be smooth and predictable, right? And so when everything goes well, why would we rock the boat? Creativity rocks the boat. Creative ideas are a thorn in the side of everybody who is intended to make this all predictable. Therefore, when things are good, creativity is not on the order of things. We're just trying to boost the things that are doing well, try to do more of them. But who in that moment thinks, okay, we need to rethink our business model. We need to rethink our market. Even if we know that the market is going to collapse in 5 to 10 years, well, that's in 10 years. That's not right now. Let's squeeze out as much as we can. Why would we worry about this? Now, that means in good times, creativity is not on the first line of interest. In bad times, now this is, for example, most recent COVID happened. All of a sudden, not only did COVID explain or kind of exaggerate all the failings that corporations had. And you said you're in resilience, right? The resilience of these organizations was 0 to 0. There was nothing there. We were so supply chains was so sophisticated.
Yeah.
The material flow was so sophisticated. It was 100% efficient.
Yeah.
That the smallest disruptions caused these enormous shifts. Now, in this moment, since everything is going downhill anyways, everybody's now like, oh my God, we need new ideas.
Yeah.
Right? I worked with a company who, in good times, they're making laundry detergent. I cannot name names, but they're making laundry detergents. Next to the factory, they had a side business that was capturing the laundry bottle plastic scraps, recycling them, and turning them into pallets, transport pallets. So where they load their laundry and then ship it out. When things are good, they realize that it's not really efficient to do that. We actually make more money if we sell this outfit to somebody else, right? And we don't want to do this anymore. That happened exactly 6 months before COVID. Now, in COVID, this company became under so much stress, not because they could not produce laundry detergent, but they didn't have any containers, any pallets to ship them on. How ironic is that? Yeah. And because in COVID, the whole supply chain that returned the pallets broke down, the company went with the largest pallet distribution organization in the US. It was all streamlined. It was all super good for the bottom line, etc. But this little outfit, this plan B that they had, they sold it off 6 months earlier. So I worked with the company, and we went through this as one of our cases, and then decided actually to go back to the company and made a good deal with them that they have something almost like a wartime production. So when pallets get tight, the company agreed to shift production towards them. So it's kind of a if then else solution. So that means at that moment when the downturn comes in, then all of a sudden everybody's asking for creative ideas, right? Oh, we need some new ideas. We need some this, and you can already see why this is not working, because I use a Yoda quote to throw them in here, and it's do or not do. There is no try. And that's the same with creativity. You cannot flip a switch. And in an organization where there's no creative basis, where there's no training, where there's no culture for creativity, that like overnight you have like everyone going full on creative. There's nothing there. There's no mechanism. There's not even a product development mechanism. Even if you would come up with ideas, there's no innovation process that picks up these ideas, evaluates them, and then acts on them, right? And so these companies, if you're not in the creative game, you will not jump into that just because the crises are hitting, and that is a big challenge in the corporate world, and that's why it's anti-cyclic. Yeah, for me, it's really bad because I'm an advisor. I help companies with creativity, so I have a lot of clients when nobody has money. See?
Interesting dilemma.
It's a real dilemma. They're all like, "Hey, we need your help, but it's not good right now. Can we have a free session, or can we fix that?
Can we do it on accrual?"
I know. And so this is, but it shows you that if an organization likes to engage in this, you got to have at least somewhat of a minimum wave of creative activities floating through your organization to have some expertise available.
Yeah. Well, that calls to mind the fact that when you do work for creativity, it's very often it's done in teams. I mean, a lonely inventor still exists, but most of the work done today is in teams. What do you see when you work with a team and they're really being creative? What is it that you see?
So the typical team that we have, the regular work team, people are chosen for availability. They're usually not chosen for a specific skill set. There's like who has nothing to do right now, let's bring you in, right? You work on this project. And what we hope for is a slight synergy. That's the best outcome you have. 1 + 1 is maybe 2.5 if you're lucky. And that's what 90% of our teams are. And because you don't train them to be, even if you give them ideas of product development or business development, market development, they're performing like this. And these teams get disbanded very quickly, and they come in, they come out, they last a few weeks, and so forth. You want to go back and look at teams historically when they've been amazingly successful or extremely kind of out of the world successful. So for the American market, I always like to use the 1992 Barcelona Olympics basketball team, the dream team, the original dream team. I mean, Paris was cool 2 years ago, and it's a good movie out there on Netflix right now. But it's not a dream team. Come on. And I'm not even knowing basketball. But in 1992, the people who came together for this, the underlying idea was that they redefined the job, and that makes creative teams really creative. The team defined the job not as we need to win the gold medal, because in 1992 there was no question. In Paris, it was on the, it was challenging. Now basketball has evolved, but in 1992 there was no challenge, right? The first time that the Michael Jordans and the Magic Johnsons and Larry Birds and showed up, there was no contest from the rest of the world for the most part. So Chuck Daly, the coach, knew this in the beginning. He knew, number one, I bring these people together and two things will happen. A, we will win the gold medal, no question about it. But the real challenge for him was, these guys are so big, they have such a big ego. How can I keep these guys together? Right? Even though the idea was great to bring them all together, but and Michael Jordan would have enough airtime, and then you have Charles Barkley on top of that. And these people have a character and aura. So what he did, and that was in hindsight probably the great move regarding the team, he redefined the job, and he said it's not our goal to win the gold medal. That's what we do kind of en passant. What we're going to do is we're going to change basketball in this world. We're going to be ambassadors for basketball. And so when you put people together in a creative challenge, you have to find out what's the higher meaning of these people together. Because in order to have a real creative team, you need to bring people together. It's a great article. It's called, what's it called? Now I forgot the name of that. I'll get to this. But it's a different type of team composition where everybody in the team is being called because they have a special skill set, not because they're available. And everybody who doesn't have a skill set to add to this team will not be on this team. This is not a learning opportunity. You don't think send the deputy of somebody in there. And so you make sure that everybody in the team has this job. And then second, there are multiple reasons, but then second of all is the people need to know that there's trust because of the capacity of people. This was something in the Oppenheimer movie that recently came out. The people who built in the Manhattan Project, Oppenheimer's real skill was to keep all these reputable physicists focused on the task and put away the academic fights that they had with each other. All these different factions in the physics world, etc. He said the goal, he also redefined, the goal is not for you to be right on your physics. The goal is that you can trust everybody in the project that they do their utmost. So you don't have to check somebody's work, right? And that makes creativity flow when you can rely on them. Comedians do this in stand-up. The good stand-up routines, when you have multiple people on stage, they can rely on the other partner to be an absolute expert, and they know how they act. They know what impressions they can do. So those are some components of creative teams. And then the last one, and this is probably the hardest for the industry, you have to keep these people together for longer periods of time, right? Because all these things, trust and capability and understanding, can only develop over time. This didn't apply in the 1992, but for the period that they actually been together, that was twice as long as everybody thought they would last without fighting each other. So it was already was already something amazing, So time is essential. the trust on the capability. Everybody is there because of a special role they had, and you need to redefine the goal beyond the initial task, because initial tasks do not motivate creative teams. They need to have a higher role. So if you bring them in, you cannot say, hey, we need to create the new widget here. No, you need to say we need to change the future of this company, right? We need to find where this organization goes within the next 10, 12 years. Then you have a chance, right? But then, anything other than that is what we call just a regular team setup, if you will.
I particularly like that concept of trusting the competency of the other person, because it means that no one is going to give you a hard time about the direction you take in your competency. It means you can really open your mind to all kinds of possibilities. Yeah. And you're right. Over time is needed. I mean, time is needed in order for trust to build. No question about that. And boy, when you have it there, why waste it by breaking them up?
Yeah, and then you only have, I mean, now there comes an accountant and looks at how much money do we spending on these guys or girls in that team per day, right? And so the only way to even remotely put a bill on that is the team has to have amazing outcomes, right?
Yeah.
But we're hamstringing this often in the beginning when we say, well, these people are not available for long, or we'll send the deputy of that person, or I'll just give you 2 days to do this. And when we do this, I would say we just cancel the whole activity, because it does cause more harm than them. So the commitment is there. Now, the trust also that the people have in that team needs to extend to the leadership of the company as well. And that means that the leadership needs to trust the team that they do their utmost to come up with something, and vice versa. The team then trusts the leadership that they're not interrupt frequently. There's no what is it called, the Big Bang Theory moment where Sheldon knocks on the door, knock knock penny, knock knock penny, knock knock penny. You leave them alone, give them the time you agreed upon. You just have to trust them that this team. And by the way, the article is called Virtuoso Teams.
The Virtuoso team. Okay.
This is called the Virtuoso team. And those are these teams that I mentioned. These are the attributes of teams that I talked about.
Oftentimes, though, when you're working with people, you don't have the choice. So how do you encourage creativity in an individual, especially if they have to deal with other people?
I wish it would be that easy to have everybody. I think first of all, it's self-selecting to a degree. One of the components when you look at creative performance in individuals is intrinsic motivation. You can, as a leader, you can dangle certain carrots in front of people, but it's very, very challenging. So you need to find out what is the carrot for each person to get motivated. I'll give you a non-carrot when it comes to creativity, and that's money.
Yeah.
So this might be a good news for somebody who thought, oh, it's going to be expensive. The cost might be even more, not than money, because money does not increase creative capability or willingness to be creative. So if you have a creative person and say, oh, I'll pay you $1,000 more, make a better painting, it doesn't work. What creative people ask for is, give me a space where I don't have to worry about pay, right? It's not like pay me all the millions in the world. That's not the reason. It's something where somebody's comfortable and is not worried about the next paycheck, or can comfortably bring themselves into this project without worrying about this. And there's a certain number for each person. As a leader, you need to find this, right? Are they comfortably paid? This doesn't have to be outrageous, and it doesn't have to be much more than anybody else, but it has to be certain consistency or a certain amount where they're comfortable. And that is the part that is number one. That helps. That makes people want to engage, right? And the second part is when you have people who are on the surface not very creative, and you say, well, how do I make you creative? Don't train them in creative techniques. The first role that you need to go for, or the first thing you need to search for, is what is killing their creativity. So there are a lot of killers out there, because universally we are creative. That's what I said with hobbies. Right? You give people a hobby and they are doing amazing things with a hobby, even if they are completely, as an employee, seem to be dull and idealess in their corporate job. They come home and have this hobby and they build you a 2,000 square foot model train system with, everything, logic controlled trains that run around. And you say, well, how did you do that? You are otherwise a very dull person at work. You don't want to do anything. I said, well, at work, everybody is killing my creativity. Things like time pressure, things like, the corporate immune system that is out to kill an idea. The leader that, when you come in with an idea, doesn't say anything, just makes this gesture like, that's enough. That's enough for most people. I'm not going to come again with an idea, right?
Yeah.
And so if you want to motivate people, find out what is killing the creativity. Do they get the support they need? Is the environment there? Things like architecture are critical. We call it the cathedral effect. People cannot be creative in narrow, lightless rooms in the basement. Accounting works there, and there's nothing wrong with accountants, but that small space creates accuracy. But if you want a creative, well, you better be in a large ceiling or outdoors even, to stimulate this. So these are small pieces that are all adding up to an environment where it's not there. And so those are the things. Before you teach any fancy creative techniques.
As you were talking, it reminded me of when I was at the World Bank. I had a colleague who said to me, "You're so creative, Madelyn." And what he didn't know was that I felt my job was to buffer between management and my team, so my team could do what they needed to do.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so because they didn't get all these things that you were talking about, this watching this, timing this, they didn't see that. I took that.
Yeah, you were the offensive linebacker.
Yeah.
I made sure that your team, aka the quarterbacks in your team, could do their job. And that's from a leadership perspective. And this also, some people may wonder, I want to have a more, creative organization, but I'm not creative. I'm leading this group. I'm not creative. I said, thank God. This is not bad, because you don't want to be the most creative person in your team. I experienced this. I don't know if you have time for this anecdote, but I experienced this as a young leader when I had my startup. And I had this idea, oh my God, we're doing a Monday morning meeting where everybody comes in and I'm going to share all the cool ideas I had over the weekend. And I thought, these people have to be there because I'm paying them, right? And so every morning I had these great ideas of how we change the next project and what we do differently and even better and cooler, right? So that was my approach. And it worked for, a few weeks. After that, I got extremely busy following up sales course on Monday because a lot of people want to do business with us, etc. Well, I was busy on Monday at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd always calls. Not so much on Tuesday, a few on Wednesday, etc. And then a pattern emerged. I only had calls on Monday morning at 9 because our phone system worked as follow. If I wouldn't pick up my phone, and I was out and about most of the time, if I wouldn't pick up the phone, it would ring for everybody. So everybody picked up the phone. Hey, can we talk to Dr. Schlake about a new project? And they were like, he's busy this week, but he has an opening Monday morning at 9 a.m. Why don't we schedule the call? And I would have, of course, never said no to a sales call. And you see where this is going, right? The whole company was dejected and rejected the idea that they go into this creativity meeting with them because they just wanted to do business. They wanted to ideally do another project just like before, same way. It was successful. We made money. Why don't we rinse and repeat? And now this guy comes in every Monday morning with his weird ideas, and they're all cool ideas. But hey, I just work here. It's not my business. So this is what I learned is, yes, you can be inspiring creatively, but your main job is to clear, you're the bulldozer in front of them, clear the path.
Yeah.
Whether this is in business or even as a teacher, you need to create this environment in which creativity can thrive. And this is your number one goal as a leader.
Yeah. I also was interested in this idea of they need a higher calling, so to speak. I remember I had one team. This was a critical one. We were working on a really difficult challenge for a client. And I knew that every one of them brought incredible competence in what we were doing. And so I started the team by saying to them, what do you want to achieve personally while we do this work? And each of them said, well, I would like to write a paper on this, or whatever it was. And I said to them, none of these are in the way of what we have to do. So let's help each other achieve our personal goals. I think that team was one of the most outstanding teams I ever worked with in terms of what they came up with.
Because everybody got something out of it,
Exactly.
right? They had a purpose to be in this team. If they didn't have a purpose before, being told to be in there, all of a sudden they developed the purpose, and then they realized this is actually a good thing. I can do two things at the same time: be in this amazing team and also get something that I want. And that's why they would never quit the team. Because they wanted to finish their observation, their paper.
Yeah. And the interesting thing was every one of them achieved their individual goals as well.
And it's not magic. It's not even coincidence, because you can design these projects so that everybody can find something in a project. That's the art of leading a creative bunch of herding cats, that we call it. You have to be a cowboy that herds cats.
Now, there's another dimension to creativity to me, and that is curiosity. Do you see curiosity as being part of this equation?
Oh, yeah. I would say it's not for me, it's curiosity is a starting point for innovation. Creativity is a form there. So in my world, I define the innovative process with four. It's a four-legged stool. 3 makes it stable, 4 makes it look good. But it's curiosity as one element. It's creativity. It's foresight, and challenging the status quo. So those 4 elements, if they come together, you got some innovative things on your hand. So the curiosity is a thing in us that helps us overcome the fear of the new. Because otherwise, human beings don't like the new, even though we would never admit it in a professional environment. But we hate the new. We don't like it. If somebody changes the recipe of my favorite Coca-Cola in the 90s, I hate it. I didn't drink this stuff even. People were angry about Coke in the 90s, not because, it's just you can't change that, right? And so anything that's new, that's the same thing with AI right now. It's like we are more afraid. We don't even look at it anymore. What's in it for me? We're just afraid of the new. So a researcher that works at the CDC in Atlanta and is researching Ebola, right? It's not a very cool thing. And the mom says to the kids, hey kids, I'm going to research Ebola. And if somebody pokes my suit, I'm going to be dead. Now, of course, you don't say that, but there is the risk of contracting that if you're not paying attention. So why would anybody do it? Why would Lewis and Clark go check out what they just bought from Napoleon when there's a 80% probability that their troop comes home dead or gets, dies of starvation, exposure on that? But why did Marie Curie continue when she was knowing that this stuff was not just good for makeup, like the glowing girls, but it's also killing her, right? Why is George the monkey and what is it called? Curiosity, the children's novel. I forgot that.
Yeah, I forgot it too.
That's the name.
Curious
right?
George.
Curious George, right? George, yeah, Curious George. Right? The monkey gets always in trouble, but the monkey sees the fun part, right? He is curious about is about these things, right? And so the curiosity has to be the driving force there. This is our intrinsic. It's not the intrinsic motivation, but it's the mechanism that lets us do it despite better knowledge, right? Despite, hey, I'm not going to explore that. I'm not going to go on a ship for for 3 years going around the world and die of scurvy. That's not very rational, but I do it anyways because I want to see what's out there,
See what's out
right?
there.
And so this is where curiosity comes in. It's a trigger point, and if you instill it to people, then you have at least a starting off point. In the process, the other elements play a role because you also need to be willing to challenge the status quo, and especially in organizations, this is where you get chopped down, right? Because you are disrupting the normal flow of things, and everybody is trying to stop you from doing it because nobody sees the value immediately. Even among great ideas, half of the people who love the idea will never say they love it because they want to see, well, what's in it for me before I kind of cheer you up, right? And so it plays a role. And the last element that I mentioned here, foresight, is critical because anything you do now, it might be cool in the here and now, but it has to be cool in here when whatever idea you have finds its place into the public, and that may be a few years down the road. And so foresight is essential, and it's not just one single future; it's multiple futures. That's what I spent most of my research life into, to build these potential scenarios for people, and then make better decisions in the here and now.
You earlier on talked about AI. Now, as AI becomes increasingly capable of generating ideas, seeing patterns, even original looking content, how do you think the role of the human creator is changing? And does creativity shift from generating ideas to selection or shaping?
Well, you just mentioned pattern recognition. AI is really good at this. Most of the even the coding works on patterns, and on factors that see which kind of word combinations are more prevalent, probability of words association, etc. I'm not afraid about pattern recognition. This is something human beings do well. Kids do this well. Computers are catching almost up in pattern recognition, and now they can do pattern recognition over great data points. And since we love it, we love this ability. That's why we find AI so fascinating, because it shows us these patterns that we would take time to do. But creativity has nothing to do with that. Creativity is breaking patterns. That is the critical thing. So when we are confronted with pattern, the great ideas are always where we break this pattern, right? That's when it gets interesting for us. So unless you can train an AI to put value at breaking patterns, which they can't right now, and I'm saying right now, so I'm going to eat my words in 5 years when that is not the case anymore. But at least for now, we have to break the pattern. Now, what makes us break the pattern is something I think we have a leg up over AI for a longer time. And those are things where we see value in the breaking pattern. Breaking the pattern in AI might be at this point still almost like a programming error, right? We don't want to break the pattern. But what comes in here are typically human capabilities. And the more capable the machine gets at creating those things, the more valuable comes what is truly human. So an AI can give me 16 outfits to wear to a prom for a student, or to a black tie event. Gives you, can go through your closet, knows everything that's in there, right? And gives you interesting combination. You never thought about this. But you have to be the person who say, this is what I'm going to do. Here's my taste. And I don't like this. So AI can make combinations of ingredients to make different cakes. You decide what is tasteful, what do you want to bring into the market. And as an entrepreneurship professor, for the most of the time, what entrepreneurs are working in is the place that is not being projected. It's the place that is uncertain, that is not being easily seen by pattern. They break the pattern in order to come something out. I mean, how does an Airbnb come up? We had, crushing on people's couches before. It just wasn't a business model alongside with that. So he came up with that, right? So I love AI, but I love AI in my creative pursuits. I love it as my brainstorming partner because it creates kind of a new higher baseline. To students, I say, if your baseline is not more when it comes to brainstorming than in AI, then you're in trouble. You need to get better at rapidly creating a set of starting ideas. But in creativity, these starting ideas are never the ideas that we actually use. There's a whole more important phase other than brainstorming, and that's what we call the emerging phase. That's when we play with ideas. That's when we can combine things that are not be combined. There's no pattern, no rule to combine this, right? Even if an AI starts playing with that, it's more random and it just algorithmic combination. We still have to put the value to it. We have to still value if this future is plausible for a human being to comprehend. Because when I ask people what's the future, it's not important what the future is. I do not need to know the exact future. I need to have a future that's convincing enough that it forces somebody today to change their strategy going forward. That's more important than the exact prediction, right? And so those are things that are human, and we can bring them in. Now, how do we deal with this in a school setting where everybody's afraid that students use AI? Wow, they've cheated before. We all been there, and everybody seems to upset. Oh my God, they're using AI to do this. And I said, good. You paid your tuition. For me, that's fine. If you want to cheat your way through a degree, you're just losing a lot of money. But what I will tell you is, you better increase your human capacity. That's what we need. You need to. How you can get better evaluate these options, how you can get more comfortable thinking in different futures, how you can create better taste, better judgment, right? You mentioned judgment, right? AI is good at predictions, but we have to be better at judgment. What fits the market? Where's the demand? How do we decide this? That's what we need to train. And we have just great tools to help us getting there faster.
I have done a lot of work in what's called knowledge management, and they talk a lot about tacit knowledge versus explicit knowledge. Mm-hmm. Well, explicit knowledge is stuff that's written down, and that's what AI can absorb in vast quantities. Mm-hmm. But it's the tacit, which touches on these variables that you're talking about, the value and how the judgments that you place with it, and the importance, et cetera. So this is exciting to me because it says that AI may never catch up because those things remain here.
Yeah, and I don't worry about this in these things. I worry for people who have job descriptions where AI kills it. Look, let's go back 30 years when the internet first came about. Yeah. We had a lot of jobs that were immediately in jeopardy that we saw. The only dangerous thing right now is we have so much corporate investment in these new technology that it's been pushed down our throats with all the force of the marketing mechanisms that are out there, that we have to do this and buy this and adopt this, and companies have to make these big statements. We're going to firing 30,000 people because of AI, which is, in my opinion, not true. They got overhired and their business models are struggling. But it's a great excuse right now to fire a vast amount of people, because we want to do this. What took us 10 to 12 years in the internet domain from having the first, you've got mail message on AOL until we started purchasing books, etc. So it took us 10 to 12 years to get there. We want to compress this now into a year or two, and already you see companies are struggling to make these investments worthwhile to investors, right? And that's the challenge we have. If we would do this more organically, these tools could be developed. There could be safeguards on the tools we could introduce. I mean, teachers are completely dumbfounded by this speed, and all of a sudden, and in faculty, we know this, all of a sudden you have like 100 faculty colleagues who are experts in AI, which they're not. They're just making it up just to be on the wave. I admit, even though I'm involved in so many AI activities, I'm not an expert. I cannot code an LMM right now to say something, or I'm getting used to agentic AI now, get it explained. But the thing is, the speed by which we're trying to do this, that's the inhuman part, right? We are not that fast because we don't like ideas that are new and are pushed to us too fast. So if you give it time, if we had more time, I think this could be an amazing opportunity here on so many areas. But for me, the speed by which it has to be pushed in to kind of excuse all the billions of investments that have been rapidly made, that's the problem,
Okay. Oliver, I have enjoyed this conversation
Same here.
enormously. Thank you
Same
so
here.
much.
Thank you.
Every now and then, there is something that changes how I think about the world. Grounds for Thought is a place where I talk about these moments so that you can explore the meaning for yourself. The Net and the Butterfly, The Art and Practice of Breakthrough Thinking by Olivia Fox Cabane and Judah Pollock. They start their book with a wonderful story about Einstein, who thought about his ideas, his problems in his mind for almost 10 years. And during that time, as I guess he was called a patent clerk, he had a friend that he talked to, everything from physics to philosophy. And one day he went to his friend and he said, I've been really focusing on this problem for the last year. Can we just talk about it? And so for that afternoon, they talked about it. And Einstein went home at the end of their discussion and hasn't really improved very much. The next morning he got up and he was so excited that he went to his friend's house, banged on the door, and he said, "Thank you. Thank you. I've completely solved the problem." And the next 6 weeks, he spent writing The Special Theory of Relativity. Cabane and Pollock wanted their readers to immediately understand that what they were talking about in their book was all about breakthroughs, breakthrough thinking. And they introduced the default mode network. And it's incredibly important. It's that part of our brains. It's kind of located behind the executive function, which is right up here in the front. The executive function that all of us talk to every day, all the time. And it talks to us. And it's hard for that default network to get through. But when it does, very often it will give us surprises. Why? Because if we were to sit in the middle of that part of the brain, it would be bouncing ideas that would seem to have no relationship. And it was as if the brain is playing because it's matching all kinds of disparate ideas and trying to come up with what does it mean? And then it sends it to us when it comes to something that it feels, okay, this is worth sending forward. Cabane and Pollock call that breakthroughs. The question is, how did it come about? It's because they learned about this default mode network quietly. Your executive function is working, no, not quietly, very excitedly, but when you can quiet your executive function and let the default mode or network actually speak to you, that's when things happen. If you think that AI has more information than you have at your disposal, so why can't it be even more creative than you? The difference is that AI depends on what is already known. You can think about things that are not known. For example, your problem may be, what does the market not even know what it wants? Steve Jobs knew that. For a wonderful book of ideas, of exercises, of stories and examples, and how breakthroughs happen to ordinary people, The Net and the Butterfly by Olivia Fox Cabane and Judah Pollock. You didn't work all these years just to worry about money later. At some point, the goal shifts from building wealth to living with financial confidence. That's where Viridian Capital Partners comes in. They work with successful individuals and families who want clarity, confidence, and a plan that actually fits their lives. As fiduciary advisors, Viridian puts your interests first, offering thoughtful guidance around investing, retirement, and estate planning, so you can stop guessing and feel secure about what's next. If you built substantial savings and want thoughtful guidance about what comes next, Viridian offers private consultations with experienced advisors who start with understanding you. Visit vcpwealth.com or call 301-228-9300. And when you mention the Unlocked podcast, you'll receive a complimentary portfolio x-ray of your current investments. Viridian, building wealth and securing futures. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this conversation has offered you not just new ideas, but different ways of noticing, one that restores attention, connection, and the capacity to learn. I'm Madelyn Blair, wishing you infinite possibilities as you unlock your resilient leader.